1-0 in the 7th minute to West Ham. Then they made it 2-0 in the 16th minute. Chloe Kelly got one back in the 44th minute, so it was then 2-1 to West Ham. Then Martinez scored for West Ham in the 51st minute, which made it 3-1 to West Ham. Then suddenly Katie McCabe scored, and it was 2-3 in the 56th minute. 2 minutes later, Williamson then scored to make it 3-3. And then in the 62nd minute, Caldenti scored a pen, which made it 4-3. Welcome back to the Arsenal Humans podcast with me, Luce. I'm feeling quite good, as you can tell, and I hope you are as well. I hope you've had a good week. I mean, if you're a Gooner, it's been a pretty mixed week. I mean, right now I'm feeling very good after yesterday's performance. I mean, comeback queens or what? Because that was crazy. At one point in the game, we were literally 3-1 down, and then somehow in like the space of, I think it was like 10-15 minutes, ended up getting a few goals, making it 4-3. So I will get on to that later on in this episode, into the actual details of what that game looked like, because that's probably one of the best WSL games I've watched this season, if not the best, because yeah, just from goal to goal to, yeah. Anyways, I don't want to reveal too much. Obviously, earlier on in the week, we did have that draw against Forest, so I feel like as an Arsenal fan right now, it's pretty mixed depending on which side of the club you're looking at. And if you look at the teams in the tables, both of us, both the men and women, we're aiming for second place, to be honest. So take that as you will. I think that's a good place to be in. WSL, I feel like we want to be pushing for more, and Chelsea just stopping that. Premier League, we're almost the ones stopping it for ourselves, and obviously Liverpool are just flying ahead. But before I get into all of that, I am intrigued about some news that has come out about the WSL. So let's get into the warm-up poll where I'll discuss that potential update, what you guys think, what I think, and then we can get into the games and the predictions. But anyways, this has been a very long intro, so I hope you're all good and keep watching. Okay, so since the Women's Professional League has taken over the WSL, I feel like there's been a lot of positive changes, a lot of different TV rights, things within the actual organisation itself, and the latest one that I basically have created as my warm-up poll question is involving relegation, and basically they're proposing that I think it's 2026-27, that season, there will be no relegation. They will just completely stop relegation. And it kind of got me thinking, as much as, yes, I understand this question isn't directly an Arsenal related question, it is a good topic of conversation right now. It will directly impact the Arsenal women's side, and to be fair, as a whole, impact women's football as a whole. And I do feel like my last like 3-4 weeks maybe of poll questions have been relating to the Premier League, Arteta, and I thought let's put some focus on the women's game. And something I'm very passionate about, which I feel like I've been advocating a lot for, is getting more teams, like by advocating I mean just voicing a lot more that we need to get more teams in WSL. And I know I'm not the only one. There's been so many people out there when I have conversations with people online that have been saying we need to get more teams in the WSL and more teams in the Championship. But how do we go about that? And basically the WPL limited company, they've basically come in and come up with this idea of scrapping it, as I've just said, in a couple of years' time. So my poll was, should the WSL scrap relegation? And the poll results show 18% of you said yes, but 82% of you said no. And I'm going to have to agree with the majority once again. I don't think scrapping the relegation, I just don't think scrapping relegation is a very good idea, because you're going to take out that competitive nature, and football literally thrives on being competitive. I mean, don't get me wrong, in the WSL, you'll see you have like the top 4 teams that compete, which is Chelsea, Arsenal, United and City. And then you have like a middle section with like the Brighton, Spurs, Liverpool. And then you have the bottom section right now, which is like the Leicesters, the Evertons, the Palace. And I don't think the scrapping relegation will necessarily impact the top 4 teams, because they're competing for the Champions League spot, which is the top 3. And they're also competing for that title, which is coming first place, obviously. So like for them, relegation isn't really affecting them. It's not really a worry. But then for the other teams, if you know that you're not going to come in that top 3, or it gets to probably say this time of the year, and you know that the teams that are going to compete in the Champions League next season is going to be one of those 4 teams that I've just mentioned, or 3 of those 4 teams that I've just mentioned, you like, what would be the point then you might as well just like not really put as much effort in. I feel like it would just be a bit weird, because then say this season Palace wouldn't actually get relegated, even though they've lost quite a few games and they've only got a few points. They wouldn't actually get relegated, and for me that just baffles my brain, because then it's like, what are you competing for? You need to compete to stay in that league. Bristol did it last season. They went up, stayed up in the WSL for one season, went straight back down. I do understand though that is the issue, and that's why I think they need to create more competitiveness a more competitive nature in the WSL by having more teams up. So instead, I think a better idea, which a couple of people did comment in my DMs on Instagram, which is where you can go and answer the poll. It is loose.chats on Instagram. But a couple of people were saying in the comments in my DM saying, I think, which obviously are welcome for comments on this topic, because it is a really interesting topic and I don't feel like the poll does it justice. So I do appreciate you if you did mention anything to me personally. And yeah, someone did say, well, a few people actually did say that it wouldn't work and it stops the competitive nature, but they were saying that it would be better if we have a few teams going up from the Championship to the WSL and then just one team going down. And I like that, because I think it's a gradual process. And then say if you get to maybe like 4 or 5 seasons time, you've got a WSL that's maybe like 20 teams big. I don't think that would work. I'm trying to do the maths. A WSL that's like 16 teams bigger, I feel like that could work. But honestly, I would hate to have to make any sort of decisions like that, because I feel like it's really tricky to please everyone, to please all the clubs, but also keep it competitive, which is what football should be. So yeah, it's tricky because you don't want any teams to be like a yo-yo team that goes up into the WSL, back to the Championship, up, down. Whereas if you could get a few up and then only one goes down, then it makes it a bit more competitive. So I guess we'll have to see what comes from that. But it was interesting to hear your views and see that most people do agree with me that scrapping relegation isn't the best idea, but we need to do something. So I do really like the initiative that the Women's Professional League Limited is taking into consideration, because I do like their initiatives and everything they're putting in place, and I do like the mindset that they're thinking about these things, because obviously previously people have just voiced it but nothing's been actually put out there in the news or anything like that. So it's good that we're taking little steps, but we'll just have to wait and see what actually comes from it. But anyways, let's get on to Arsenal and focus on the matches we've played and the ones ahead. Let's chat. This section, could actually be the best section of the episode or the worst section. And what is this? Episode 18. And I've got to say, it's another mixed section, because we got 4 points out of a potential 6, which meant that we drew one game and we won the other game. So let's get into the first game. It's been pretty mixed. Forest 0, Arsenal 0. I did predict it to be 2-2, so it's not too far off what I thought. And the reasoning was because if you look at the league going into this game, which has been the same coming out of it, we're in second, they're in third, which I don't think anyone going into the season thought that Forest would be as high as they are. And I've been very impressed by Forest, I think. Same with quite a few people. So I was like, we can't underestimate them. They do have like Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood. They do have them ballers up top. Obviously we do have the ballers in defence and we have ballers up top, but we've got a lot of injuries recently. Not an excuse, but just an observation. And we've got a few, things like that. I was at the Lioness game, little disclaimer. So I did get to see England win 1-0 against Spain, which was unreal to watch. Great to see Chloe Kelly there, because obviously she was last minute. Great to see Grace Clinton, Nikita Paris. LJ was on fire. I mean, Millie Bright, Hannah Hampton in the net. She was unreal. Yeah, there was a lot going on with that game. Great game to be at. But because I was at that game and this Arsenal Forest game was at the same time, I only saw the results on my phone as notifications, and halftime it said 0-0, and I was like, okay, that's fine, like we're not losing, that's fine. And then suddenly I looked at full time and went, oh, still 0-0, great. So then I've watched the highlights, and from what I gather, we should have won. Tell me if I'm wrong, please tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the highlights and everything that I've been looking at, and all different people's views and opinions and everything like that I've been collating together and creating my own thoughts of the game, are saying that we should definitely have scored. I mean, I saw that Calafiori, he's a very creative player, and in this game he proved to be very creative by going basically left back all the way up to like left wing, and the way he spun round, hit the post as well. I thought that was, frustrating, because that could have been the decider of what us getting even further up. Points wise, obviously we're not catching Liverpool anytime soon, but extending that lead just so it's a bit comfier, because right now if I look at the table, Liverpool are 13 ahead of us with a game in hand, so potentially they could go 10 ahead, which is obviously too far to chase at this point. And then Forest are 6 behind us, which is only 2 wins, so if we lose or draw, then they could easily overtake. So I think we did need that goal. Odegaard had a few chances. Saliba did a great tackle. He did sort of cause the issue as to why they were through on goal, but then he did a great tackle, which proves that he's one of the best in the league. Also, Raya, great saves as well. So I feel like overall it was quite a mixed game. I do feel like we should have won. Very frustrating that we didn't, but I'm just hoping that we can keep that number 2 spot in the league, because I think that's very respectable. Obviously, it's gutting that once again, another season that we haven't been able to push up to that first spot, but I think this isn't the point where we just drop down and think, oh no, what's the point? We've got a lot of issues in terms of a lot of different challenges that we've got to overcome, with injuries and with not having a striker, which you could argue partly is down to the club, partly not. So obviously we've got to somehow overcome that. But yeah, I'm feeling considering we drew, I'm actually not feeling the worst. I think if we lost, I'd just be fed up. And yes, I wanted to win, but I went in it thinking, maybe it's because actually I went into the game quite pessimistic, thinking, yeah, we probably won't win that. I'm not really feeling too bad, too deep. It's not too deep for me. We're still in the same sport. They're still in the same sport. Hasn't really changed too much in the league structure. I think we do just need a bit of confidence. We have a couple games coming up this week and a couple games next week. We've got a busy March time, so we do need a bit more confidence than just getting a draw. But it's okay. We didn't fully lose. But a game that we nearly lost, and then somehow, I don't even know how, obviously I said in my intro, comeback queens, we ended up winning against West Ham. At one point we were down 3-1, but we ended up pulling it back and winning 4-3. So Arsenal 4, West Ham 3. And let me just show you this graphic. There's been so many different graphics I feel like produced around this game, because it's probably one of the most exciting games that have happened recently. But it just breaks down. This is courtesy of the WSL on Instagram. It just breaks down all the goals really nicely. Okay, so let me just break it down for you. 1-0 in the 7th minute to West Ham. Then they made it 2-0 in the 16th minute. Chloe Kelly got one back in the 44th minute, so it was then 2-1 to West Ham. Then Martinez scored for West Ham in the 51st minute, which made it 3-1 to West Ham. Then suddenly Katie McCabe scored, and it was 2-3 in the 56th minute. 2 minutes later, Williamson then scored to make it 3-3. And then in the 62nd minute, Caldenti scored a pen, which made it 4-3. Which is crazy that, oh my god, in literally 6 minutes, Arsenal went from 3-1 to 4-3. That's mad. That's crazy. That is crazy looking at that. Obviously, that's a lot. That's a lot to process, 7 goals in one game. And the fact that most of them did come in the second half, it is just mental. I want to obviously we have to highlight Chloe Kelly's goal. It's her first goal back in red and white, as Arsenal nicely put on their Instagram. And it was a good vibe, because she scored to get, we were 2-0 down at that point, and she scored to put us on that score sheet. I mean, we're at Meadow Park, we're at home, we should have won that. And obviously we did, but we should have been leading that. So the fact that she then turned up and went, no guys, this is what we do. And she's very direct with the ball. That's something that we obviously appreciate a lot in the Lionesses. And I'm just very happy now that she's back where she belongs, at Arsenal. Obviously got to mention McCabe's goal, such a tight angle. Williamson's header, it was so good to see her on the score sheet. Also that celebration, I don't even know what just happened, because she literally rolled over. So that was quite funny. And then Caldenti got a penalty, converted it from the spot. Obviously she's literally my player of the season so far, and I'm not really sure why the penalty was given, as in I know why the penalty was given, but I'm not really sure how it even happened, because I'm pretty sure it was Smith literally just hands out. I don't really know what was going through her head, but she just hands out handball, and I was like, okay, fair. I mean, it gave us the lead. But obviously we've just mentioned all the goal scorers. We've got to give credit to DVD. Big up Van Dom Salar. She literally kept us in that game. She kept us ahead, because there was a few saves later on in the game, especially one where it's sort of It went in the box. Everyone was like crowding over, and suddenly, somehow, the ball then went out, and I was like, what is going on? So we've got to big her up as well because that was crazy. But either way, I'm just happy. I was actually at the Chelsea Brighton game because I thought it was nice to go to a game as a neutral. I feel like I haven't really done that before. I don't know if you guys really do that or what your views are of that. But for me, I haven't been really to a game as a neutral, and I thought I'm supporting the women's game today and Brighton because obviously I don't want Chelsea to keep going on and winning. And at half time, being 2-1 to Brighton, Brighton dominated. They should have won that. But I think it was just such a good day yesterday to be a Gooner for the women's side, anyways, because Chelsea drew to Brighton, so they dropped points, which means that Chelsea are on 41, United are on 36, and we're on 33. So the gap is narrowing. I'm not saying Chelsea are going to drop down to second or third position, but it's just good for confidence-wise because I think we're going to be able to overtake United very soon. City are only on 31 though, which is only 2 points behind us. So it is all very close up at the top, but overall was a good week of football. When we want to focus more on the women's side, a few awards that I just want to quickly mention as well. Raya got the best goalkeeper at the London 2025 Football Awards. Caldenti got the WSL Player of the Month, and then Renee Slagers got the WSL Manager of the Month. And it was just great to see 3 awards given in literally like a week for Arsenal. So that was really good. I want to just shout them out because I think it's nice that they're being rewarded for exactly what they're doing. I mean, Raya definitely, obviously, it's going over last season as well. His clean sheet record, he's obviously, it's actually crazy when I think back. There was that debate with Ramsdale and Raya, and now I'm like, Raya, like he is literally Arsenal's keeper. There's no question about it whatsoever. So he definitely earned that trophy. Caldenti, I said she should be player of the season. So watch that in a few months' time. She better get that one. And then Slagers, she's so humble when she accepted that award, but she's got to get it. She deserved that so much. I think what she's done since obviously taking over from Jonas Edeval, stepping up, she's just been phenomenal for us, and I hope she stays next season as well. I'm sure she will because she's doing great. But yeah, overall, nice to end on a few awards, a few positives. But let's look at next week because we have 3 fixtures coming up. Okay, so for this final section, it is obviously the prediction section, and I'm happy because this week we have 3 games coming up. I feel like the last few weeks we've only really had 1, but this is the start of a very, very busy month because, I mean, if you look at the games this week, we have a Champions League game, we have an FA Cup game, and we have a Premier League game. So 3 competitions, 3 games. Let's get into that. So, okay, the first one is tomorrow, this time tomorrow roughly. We have Arsenal versus PSV. It is the first leg of the round of 16, first leg. There we go. And it is an away fixture. Straight out the bat, I'm going to predict it to be 2-1 to Arsenal. I think, just basing it purely off Arsenal, we are more of the favourites to win this game, but we can't get complacent. That's why I think they will definitely get on the score sheet, but I'm hoping we get on it a bit more. Obviously, this is an away fixture. We are missing certain key players, and I'm hoping by the time we play them again, we've got a few players back. But we'll have to wait and see. Moving on to Arsenal versus Liverpool, that is on at Sunday at 2:30. It is a home game and it's the quarter-final of the FA Cup. We're getting through to the semi-final. Mark my words, we're getting... Touch wood, actually. I don't want to jinx that one. But mark my words, we're getting through to the semi-finals because we have to. Liverpool have just sacked Matt Beard for whatever reason. I have no idea why. I'm assuming in the next week or 2 something will come out. But I'm going to predict 3-0 win for us. We're in great form. I think how we ended that West Ham game, we can start this Liverpool game like that. So if we do, no worries whatsoever. So I'm excited about that. And it'll be good because we know we're not winning the WSL. So we need to pour all into this FA Cup game, which I'm sure we will. And the final game, which is on only 2 hours after. So I guess working out using maths, if there's no extra time or penalties or anything like that in the FA Cup quarterfinal, then you should be able to watch both the men's and women play on Sunday. And Sunday is Man United versus Arsenal in the Premier League. I'm going to predict it to be a classic 1-0 to Arsenal. Under Amorim, United thought they were going to find great success straight away. And it's been a bit mixed. I think he was almost expecting to find great success straight away. And yeah, I mean, obviously they did beat us in the FA Cup, but that game we so should have won. I think we just need to be clinical against United and then we'll definitely get that win. I'm not going to say it's going to be like a 10-0 or something because that's stupid, but I do think just a classic 1-0 just to keep, like, I don't want to get too complacent, but we should be winning this. We definitely should be winning this. And it'll be just funny to see United go further and further down the league, but I am hoping we can do this. So once again, that is 3 games, and I'm predicting 3 wins, which, call me delusional, but I will be coming back, hopefully, this time next week, saying we've won 3 games this week. I'm hoping it's a lot more positive. I mean, to be fair, my mood for this episode has been quite positive, but I'm hoping that next week, after these 3 games, it's even better, and no draws, please. Unless it's the Premier League game with United, but even then, we don't want a draw. We don't want any draws. Okay, that is the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, I feel like I'm vibing with the amount of games that are coming up, and I feel like the next few episodes for the next month or 2 should be quite busy. A lot of content filled, and I mean, we even had awards in this episode, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you're watching on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I just reached a little benchmark of 350 subscribers, which I'm very chuffed about, considering I've been doing this for a few months. But if you are watching, don't just watch. Subscribe if you enjoy it, and obviously a thumbs up as well. Comment as well, anything that you want to based on this video, or anything you'd want to see in a future video. If you have any poll ideas, warm-up poll questions, or anything like that, then do let me know, because sometimes it is quite tricky to not repeat the same. Are Arsenal going to win? Are Arsenal going to get any silverware this season? Arteta in, Arteta out. I want to make it different. That's why this week I thought I'd base it more WSL. But if you have any ideas, then do let me know, because it'll be good to hear from you guys of what you guys want. And if you're listening on Spotify, please make sure you follow me on that as well and give me a rating. Anyways, I think that is all the little admin-y stuff to say. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I will see you next week after, hopefully, well, what I'm predicting anyways, 3 wins in 3 games.